Good evening. Not a normal one this evening. I'm just going to go back to my old movie reviewing days and have a quick word about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which has just got back from the cinema. Well, I've had a bit of a weird day. Had a parents' evening to see what Max was doing at school. Bloody brilliant. So very proud. But I did after that, as I had a free afternoon, went down to the cinema to watch Frozen Empire because I haven't seen it yet. And as anybody knows who saw my early channel, I was a little bit, not obsessed, but I was a big aficionado of Ghostbusters. So I thought I'd pop along to see it, see how, if the mixed reviews were deserving of being so very, very mixed. And I'm afraid to say the answer I have to say is yes. I'm a big believer in not taking reviews, specifically professional reviews, at their words just because they are the reviews. I'd like to go along, see for myself, make up my own mind. One of the what's the word? The litmus, the great linchpin I always go to are the guys from Red Letter Media, Mike J, and to a lesser extent, Rich Evans. I agree 99% of what some of the things they review. Sometimes they are very independent. If you don't know who Red Letter Media are, they're the guys who did the original Plinkett reviews. The 90-minute Phantom Menace review was the big one that catapulted them. I think Simon Pegg had a lot to do with that because I think he retweeted the videos. But they reviewed Afterlife, which, as it happens, I do have. And the green screen is completely... Yeah, it's Afterlife, you know what it is. I love that film. They did not go great guns on it. They didn't think it was very good. Thought it was too schmaltzy, this, that and the other. But my response to that was, this isn't the 80s anymore. The movies that are being made these days are different from what was made in the 80s. I mean, Ghostbusters is a timeless classic, but it's definitely of its time. One of the things that it was being sold at is a massive comedy. Now, I kind of disagree. I don't think the original Ghostbusters was an out-and-out comedy, not as much in the same vein as something like Stripes or previous works. I know the majority of the guys from Ghostbusters and what have you, I mean, it was supposed to be it's a Saturday Night Live thing, really. I mean, Winston Zeddemore, Ernie Hudson was going to be Eddie Murphy, but he couldn't get away from Beverly Hills Cop. And I think John Belushi was going to be, or Slime was based on John Belushi. John Candy was going to be Louis Tully, but he went in with the proviso that Louis Tully was going to have a German accent or something along those lines. Gozer was going to be Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, but there's things that happen for a reason. And then we got the film he ended up with, which is regarded worldwide as one of the best films, not necessarily comedy, because it's kind of sci-fi, kind of fantasy, kind of ghost story, kind of comedy kind of thing. I wouldn't say there's any laugh out loud. There may be one or two to start with. When you've seen the films as many times as I have, you just watch it. You don't really chuckle, not even internally. But regardless, now we are in 2024. Afterlife, I think, was 2021. Yeah, 2021. Anyway, so I'm just going to go through a few points. Now, I would have to say, Afterlife, fantastic. Absolutely loved it. After the absolute clusterfuck that was the 2016 bowel movement by Paul Feig, which, I can't even think about. I think what an insult that was to the original franchise and what the original movies kind of stood for, and the genre they became the pinnacle of instantly. The 2016 version was just an absolute bloody nightmare, and like I say, an insult, and I mean that in all sincerity. Afterlife was a nice way of easing it back, very affectionate. It was a massive nod to the dear departed Harold Ramis, and this one, Frozen Empire, is dedicated to Ivan Reitman for obvious reasons, same reasons. Very sad to see him go, but he was getting on a bit. But a few points I will point out about. I'm probably not going to clip in, so it's literally just going to be pointed to screen. I mean, the film starts. There was a bit in the trailer where there's an oldie-timey fireman in a room full of frozen people when he touches one and they shatter. It was postulated that that was like as like a flashback. Turns out it was. So that's right at the start of the film. And then we go straight into it with a scene which is in the trailers, where they're driving through the streets of New York and Phoebe is hanging out the side of the car, despite her mother telling her not to, and catching the Hell's Kitchen sewer dragon or something along those lines. It's not very well established or very well explained how well established they are as the new Ghostbusters, so to speak. They're struggling. Apparently the story is that Winston's has brought back the firehouse and given it to them. It's interesting that in Afterlife, that pointless phone call that Phoebe had with Dan Aykroyd, he says, what some businessman bought up all of Tribeca and the firehouse is now a Starbucks. Completely isn't, as you can see in this film. It's the empty shell it always was. It is actually a set this time. It's not the firehouse. It's not the fire station in Los Angeles, which is the setting for the original two films, and Big Trouble in Little China and one episode of Buffy. And I think there was something else as well. So it's not very well established very explained how well established they are and how they got to be there rather than Arkansas or wherever it was. Next point, Finn Wolfhard. Nothing to do in this film. Puts on a jumpsuit, puts on the proton pack, complains a couple of times, gets slimed as you can see in the trailer. Doesn't really do much. He's a lot of filler. Lucky, who was in the original one, his love interest, just shows up halfway through the film. There she is. She's in the new secret ghost mechanic or ghost technician squad. She just turns up and then she's a major part of the film. The scene in the trailer where she gets very, very frozen isn't in this. It's one of those annoying things where scenes that in the trailer that you're looking forward to don't show up. I point in the direction of Rogue One. I'm looking at you. I'm going to skip this because the bit I'm about to talk to, I'm going to talk about later. But the old guard, very embarrassing and awkward to see them. Dan Aykroyd is a much, much larger part of this story. Ernie Hudson, again, because he's like the money behind the whole thing. Bill Murray's in two scenes. The shot you've seen of him talking to Paul Rudd in the cellar of the firehouse isn't in the film, unless it's the very end of the credits scene, which I wasn't there for. I had to leave. It's almost as awkward as that scene at the end of Afterlife where, ta-da, we're here. The shot cuts to them and they're standing there, and then there's a beat, and then they very slowly start as if the curtains have just opened and it's a Jimmy Kimmel show once again. Bill Murray, probably 2 or 3 scenes, doesn't really do much, fires a proton pack and makes a couple of quick quips. There's one callback, one recurring character from 1984. Does kind of make sense in that context. You'll know who I mean when you see him. Next, McKenna Grace. She's 17 now. She plays a 15-year-old Phoebe in this, but she's 17 now. And it's quite obvious in a couple of scenes, and I'm not being weird or anything like that, but there's a couple of things you will notice early on. Later on, she's wearing dungarees and an ugly shirt. But early on, you think, this is not the same girl. For one thing, she ain't a girl anymore. And that's very, very obvious. For one thing, her face has changed shape so much. She doesn't suit her hair. I know they put the black curly hair on her to emulate Harold Ramis. But it's just so out of her head shape, doesn't suit her. So it actually, in Afterlife, she was a precocious young genius, and that fit. In this, she's most definitely a young woman, and it doesn't quite gel. Some of the motivations, there's going to be a spoiler here. She befriends a ghost. She goes to one of the chess tables in, I think it's Central Park, there's a fountain, and she starts playing chess with nobody. In the middle of the night, I think there's a subplot where she feels left out. She feels ostracised because Walter Peck is back for some reason. They dug up William Atherton and put a suit on him, and now he's the mayor. You've probably seen the trailer. Because of the opening scene, she basically gets barred from being in Ghostbusters. So she's basically left on her own, and there's nothing that they can do about it. So to depict her loneliness and her isolation, she sits at an empty chess table in Central Park in the middle of the night. And of course, as the previous film, the chess pieces start moving, and you can. It's actually quite well acted, because when she actually sees her opponent, and it's not Egon, it's very subtly done. And it's, props to her for that, because she is a good actress. It's just the look of this character, not the character itself, the look of the character is wrong for her now. But anyway, you have this character called Melody, who is a ghost, and she starts playing with her, and she befriends this ghost. And again, here's the spoiler: at some point in the film, using the technology at the new Ghostbusters HQ, she decides to become a ghost, but only for 2 minutes. Now, this isn't explained really. It's a little bit like the Half-Blood Prince's diary, or the Half-Blood Prince's potions book, where in the book of Half-Blood Prince, there's a large portion of the story that is dedicated to Harry being obsessed with it. In the film rather, it's just there's one scene, a little montage, and then Snape saying, "I am the Half-Blood Prince" at the end, and everybody else is going, "Who cares? We didn't give a monkeys." Potion scene was about 5 minutes total in a 2.5 hour movie. Why should we care? So this little journey that Phoebe goes on, she's not. It's kind of weird, because she's so smart, but she does silly things or stupid things, and in this film, bloody dangerous things. Which actually comes down to the denouement of the movie. Doesn't quite gel. There's just a whole lot of things that didn't quite. That character in the previous movie would not have done the thing she just did, or he just did. So yeah, it sounds like I'm really ripping on this film, but I'm trying not to, because it was better than the sum of its parts. The last thing, because it's going to be a short one, the last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to have to hold my hands up, because in all the promo gear, especially for the UK market, James Acaster has been really, really plugged. If you don't know who James Acaster is, he's a British comedian. I'm not a big fan of him as a comedian. In fact, I did actually look it up. He's less than 60 after a whole number in the top 100 British comedians, comedy acts. He's 61 behind a whole bunch of dead people. I don't think he's a very funny comedian. Actually, I think he's a little bit arrogant and obnoxious. I don't know if there's a character he's playing, but he doesn't quite gel. However, he's really good in this, and so you'll never see this, James. But if you do, I apologise. I've made an assumption based on your previous character, my previous experience, without giving you a chance to show your chops. A couple of scenes is a little bit, but he's not really integral, but the character he plays fits in really well. He's like the chief power technician in Winston's new Ghostbusters lab. The reason for which is explained in the film. No, but that will do for spoilers. But yeah, James he's actually quite good. There's a scene at the end where I think they let him ad-lib. Sometimes it works. You can do that with Robin Williams. You can do that with Jim Carrey. You can't really do that with James Acaster, because it doesn't quite gel. He's okay with the script, but let him make it up and it probably doesn't work. I may be wrong, however, as I say, I wasn't expecting him to be that good. He's passable. He fits in well, and he isn't the absolute dog turd he could have been if he'd stuck to the character, the persona he uses before. So also, I've just completely forgot about one thing. The actual story. If you've seen the trailer, you know what it's about. A demon or a demigod or something is raised or is released, and raises havoc with New York in general. This doesn't actually happen till the last half an hour of the movie. It's building up to it, and honestly, there's so much packed in the last fourth act. When I say third act, it's actually a shorter time than that. Again, this might be slight spoilers, but they pack so much into it. At some point, you think it's going to go down the road of that other film that nobody was expecting to be a part 2. I can't remember what it was. It was about 6 months ago. Completely escapes my mind. I've been racking my brains trying to think about it. You think isn't going to end. You think there's going to be a part 3 because there's no finale. They're in this confined space. Again, spoiler. The finale of the scene, the finale of the film, happens inside Ghostbusters Firehouse. The original, the production title for the film, like Star Wars was Blue Harvest and things like that. The working title, that's it, was Firehouse, Ghostbusters Firehouse, and now I get why. It actually leads back. This is a little bit clever. It actually leads back to something that happened. One of the most prolific incidents that happened in the first film is called back, and it fits. And then all of a sudden, 30 minutes ago, here comes the Frozen part of the title. Here's 15 or here's 10 minutes of the demon just basically Deus Ex Machina in reverse. Again, I don't want to spoil it too much, but you know, all the danger that happens in the film, all the actual peril that has to be avoided, happens in the last 20 to 25 minutes. Up till then is Phoebe teenage angst and William Atherton getting pissed off. Overall, you can go through the film, it's less than 2 hours long, and you can think, why did they do that? That wasn't very good. That looks a bit jumpy. Even the credits didn't seem to be edited that well, and it was jarring. For someone who spent, as detailed in my last video, I use Photoshop a lot. I noticed things like that they don't quite gel. It's probably part of my undiagnosed autism as well. It just seemed choppy, didn't seem in sync, and I don't know if that was a deliberate choice or what, because it's all icy and things like that. The little Stay Puft Marshmallow guys, pointless, absolutely pointless. No point in their being there. Pointless callback to the previous movie. They're less annoying than Gremlins, but I don't know. No point in it. Should have been something else. Should have been something new. Yeah, I think that'll do for that. It's okay. Average score amount, I think about 75%. I would agree with that. It's definitely nowhere near above 85. Nowhere lower than 65. It could have been better. They do say they're going to make some more. Let's see if we can get McKenna Grace back into her blonde hair, because the black wig doesn't suit her at all. That'll do. Thank you very much for watching. This was just one of my little movie things. See you next time I see you. Thank you very much and goodbye. Oh, one last thing. Very much like this, there's a post-credit scene. It's kind of pointless. It includes something I've spoken about before. It's not worth the wait. And there's nothing at the end like there was with Afterlife. So stick around if you want to. If you haven't got out your seat yet, it's twee, I suppose, but doesn't really lead to anything. So thanks. Bye. Oh, before I forget, there's one post-credit scene, but it's not worth it.